I am Nave, back again with this shit. I signed up for 2 more draft leagues. This one is the Pokemon Streamer Draft League, which doesn't actually contain many streamers, and it'll probably get a name change, which I'll have to fix in the title eventually. But it's a 6v6 draft league, not like a doubles OU one. It's still VGC. It's 5 weeks long, but in a 10-person draft in 2 pods. So everyone gets an optional bye week they can choose to play or not play, so it might as well be 4 weeks, and my bye week is first, and I don't think the other guy wants to play, so I'm making this video now. But the draft format is in the same style as CPDL, where you draft tiered and then do a small points draft. And what I learned from last time is that to do well in that type of draft, you have to draft the closest to a real team as possible, so you can apply a bunch of builder pressure by threatening to bring your constructed tier core, and then you can bring that in the pick good into the matchup, and they can't do anything about it because the power level is too fucking high. So I wanted to draft something that fits that and is also simple, because I want to see how well I can do with like minimal theory crafting in this draft, like test how good my raw game instincts are on top of being in 2 drafts at the same time, and I won't have time to put a lot of stuff to both. My first idea was Gouging Fire and Landorus, which, if you can tell by how I've been open to a screenshot in Google instead of a spreadsheet this whole time, you'd know I didn't actually get. But the plan was Gouging Fire and Landorus cover each other's weaknesses like alright, not the best, but it's functional. It can realistically be booster speed and Scarf, and Intimidate 145 attack is a great howl target. Just a fun core I think would have been really good in regular play if it weren't for Incineroar, because all the good Intimidators are fire types right now. So an offensive ground one would have been good. Then Sun DT for Disc Wake, and to have a special attacker, Gambit against Trick Room because it's a proven good gouging partner, and Boulder for Edge Quake with Lando, and because I like him. The very first pick of this draft was Gouging Fire, so I had to pivot from that and instead got this. Let's do this. You can see a lot of the same concepts got brought over. I still have Disquake, I still have Tinkaton, I still have an Imprisoned Trick Rumor and a Redirector, because even without the star player, wasn't that hard to adjust to a similar version? Which wasn't true for CPDL, where I also got draft ruiningly sniped early, but now I will break every pick down, bit by bit in a list-like fashion. This pick was Bastiodon M. I said if no one else is going to draft 300 base power last respects, then I will. This plays are on 6v6, the best out of any other Pokemon in the game. I was really surprised it wasn't in the first 4 picks. It doesn't need rain at all. I guess feeling like it has to be on rain drove people off, but it's got the strongest builder pressure you can get, and in an elongated game, it's harder to save your defensive terrors against it until the end. And even still, 150 plus BP last respects are more common, so when it becomes powerful, it's a lot sooner. The funny thing is I still think Bastiodon F is better than Bastiodon M because the girl can run physical, but the boy can't run special. But my B tiers are too good and have irreplaceable unique traits that I can't actually pick otherwise. Landorus is Landorus. You don't need to explain why you want a Landorus. The house stuff will still work with it, and having actual set versatility in draft helps it a lot. I got owned by it twice in CPDL and kind of wanted to turn on the power here. We're gonna skip to the point A tiers because I knew who I wanted to sure is. I saw Gouging wasn't picked. Screamtail is my discount Gouging Fire. It can't do any damage, but you can howl all the same, and with about the same bulk, even if the typing is a lot worse, you can do a lot. It's not that serious a downgrade from Gouging here. Like in CPDL, when I wanted to draft Viltraz and Confe and I lost Confe, I was like, okay, I'm going to get Life Dew Lapras and Scarf, Ball, and Buff for Bombi. But I can see a different version of me that likes Screens more or likes Encore Disable more. Could have picked Screamtail over Gouging anyway, so this is fine. It is really shocking to me that they have like the same bulk though. Like, crazy that it gets all that just for like the 20 more speed, which doesn't really matter when booster flutters in the game. Tinkaton has fake out, and how Gigahenton Hammer is really all that I thought about here. Like with Landorus, she's a quintessential draft support. You don't really have to explain why you want her. She's the most hurt by not getting Gouging Fire because they have extremely good synergy together, like both offensively, and their shared ground weakness is handled by ground immunity Landorus and Thunderous. Her and Screamtail don't share any weaknesses, but they can't cover each other offensively is bad, but like the time one fake out Howl or Howl Gigaton Hammer mind game is still there, and that's really all I needed or wanted. A dragon was originally Cleavor. I saw it Sonax to get rocks up and play with hazards where they're better was a fun idea, and I wanted to get a rock type to replace Iron Boulder, but I replaced it for 2 reasons. One, I think this team has a lot of Scarf Hogs. Bastiodon and Landorus both want it, and it's good on Thunderous sometimes, and while those 3 are good with it, they don't demand it. And I felt Cleavor absolutely needs Scarf to function, and I didn't want to deal with that. Second, I got my schedule, and Cleavor isn't very good into anyone I play, and the matchup it's good in would fill the same function as Hydreigon. It would just click the stab move that works, and it would resist some type of hit. Not having a way to super effectively hit grass well is bad, but Hydreigon getting Flamethrower and resistant grass is good enough for me. Having Levitate is good Landorus synergy, but they're both weak to ice and have 4 times weaknesses, so maybe. But I'm not too worried about that. I am worried about that, but I'm not too worried about losing Stealth Rocks with Stone Axe because Landorus is such a great rocker. I mean, it's only in singles, so maybe it's bad in doubles, but as he doubles OU gains where it sets up rocks, so yeah. Still wanted Imprisoned Trick Room, and Trapping is very valuable on this team with Bastion Legion and these Howl boosts, so Gothorita seemed a good pick. Also, it's a benefactor of 66, so it's a lot easier to find scenarios to pivot into trapping when switching is safer, and you'll be in a lot more lead scenario, you'll be in a lot more like messed up lead scenarios. Not messed up lead scenarios, but like it's easier to catch people out of position when they've got a lot more to position. And maybe I'll try Parashite with Streamtail, but I don't think it's very good. I needed a Redirector and a Fire type, and Magmortar compresses both. I used them in the last draft, and I want to try like carrying over one mon I used from my last draft to the next as much as I'm able to, so this felt nice to do. Since my setup is a spread move, I can maybe even use it offensively this time. So I wanted to in PSDL and never got the chance to because my team was all slow fat asses, but it covers the weaknesses of my offensive A tiers very well, and never pick Magmar. Magmortar is always better. Whenever I see someone pick Magmar, I go, Magmortar is one tier below. The bulk is just, if you get a Citrus Berry, the bulk is the same. The bulk is like almost the same. It's just, it's worse against like Tyranitar if the Tyranitar becomes a special Tyranitar and you invest in physical defense, and like that's it. It's so crazy. I just don't get it. Phalanx was originally Lurantis, and I thought, oh, I can self-Eerie Impulse this like once with Thunderous, and it's kind of good in Check Room, this is fine, but Swacky was available, and I thought, oh, there's no way I'm not picking Swacky. Replaced it with Phalanx, it's probably my worst D tier, but no Retreat with Gothorita Trapping is good, as is Defiant. Don't think I'll bring this one, but the stats are fine. It's not off the table, and I also don't think there's much better I could trade for it. Now, Swacky is actually really bad on my team. Bastion Legion is around for a good time, not a long time. Landorus, Sundurus, Hydreigon all float, and it doesn't really have all the attack to work all that well with Screamtail, so with Fake Out Eviolite it probably could. But I'm not going to trade Swacky out. It's just good to have so no one else can get it. Counter drafting in Pokemon is generally bad, but Swacky is like the exception to the rule. It's the most coveted low tier by a long shot because it's a lot of roll compression. It fills out a Fire, Water, Grass core, it has Fake Out, and it gets terrain control and priority. Getting it, even if you plan to rarely use it, is never a bad idea. The most complicated one. This is the one I'm serious about. First, I had Zoroark in this slot because it's under tiered. Like a unique ability in those offenses and speed do not a bottom tier make. But as a mind game lead, it doesn't actually work for me. Landorus intimidates on entry and can't do anything else, so it can't pretend to be that. Pretending to be Tinkaton doesn't give me more utility than actually leading Tinkaton. And the best one to pretend to be in Cleavor, I wanted to trade away. And Screamtail is almost always booster. And if it wasn't, I would probably make them assume it's Zoroark, and while having a Screamtail that doesn't actually have booster is a good mind game, I don't think that mind game is better than just running booster speed. So I've replaced it with Bastiodon, so it could have another ice resistance, and like it's just registeel so far as I'm concerned. It could even be better than registeel in a draft context. Like, obviously, I prefer having registeel, but when considering the opportunity cost within tiers, they're similar enough in function. I think you're better off picking Bastiodon in the same way more people pick Torracat than Incineroar or Fungus over Amoonguss. Nearly identical stats and the same number of weaknesses is good. And like, the 2 4x weaknesses are terrible for Bastiodon, but in this power level, you still either have to redirect or get an iron defense up to face physical fighting grounds, or Terra in front of them. Bastiodon will be leaning Terra most of the time, and that's a big downside. But if you're playing against either kinds of Landorus or Urshifu, a Terra Registeel and a Terra Bastiodon are just about the same thing. Same if you've decided the best way for a matchup is Iron Press. If you've dedicated that fire, you're probably going to want a Terra, the Registeel, or the Bastiodon. And at that point, again, they're the same. It even has some big moveset upsides too, like Foul Play and Fissure are better offensive tools than anything Registeel gets, and Wide Guard, Taunt, Battle Burst, Roar are better support tools. Having 20 less speed makes it better against Trick Room since base 50 Registeel isn't outspeeding anything anyway. It also actually benefits from Swacky on this team, which is wonderful. So that's everyone. Overall, I like this team. There's not really anything I'm unhappy about that I won't learn when I actually play the game. Above all else, like, my type chart looks crazy. Like, not that I think this is particularly reliable because it doesn't take into account offensive coverage, that I want, like, okay, Magmortar lets me hit fire, but I'm a Redirector. It's not really burning them that well. Like, something like that, I don't really consider that, but like, defensively, only being weak to Ghost when I have the best Ghost type move in the game is great. If my opponent wants to play this week, I will now segue into Team Builder, and if they don't, I will abruptly cut the video now.